The first part of this really is there's a question, and the question is non-important. It's merely to simply serve as a prompt for your answer. And this is your answer. This chat bubble right here that I'll draw is your answer to a question. It could also be your opinion on any subject, and the subject is irrelevant. It could be religion, it could be spirituality, it could be morals, economics, investing. I'm going to use, real estate, just because that's the last book that I read. I'm not an expert on real estate, but I think this should work for illustration purposes. This answer, this opinion that you gave, this statement is, say, several sentences. It could even be writing. So, for example, you write an article on real estate. Now, when you're formulating this opinion, this is in conversation, in writing, you are drawing upon this knowledge corpus. There's two sections to this. This is your knowledge corpus. This is your body of knowledge. So I'm just going to write KC for knowledge corpus. And this is the body of knowledge on the topic of real estate. Okay. This is comprised of, the books that you've read. These are supposed to be sheets of paper. The books that you've read, videos that you've watched, the people that you've spoken to and had conversations with and absorbed that information. And there's two parts to this. So this first first part is what I would call, and I've done research trying to figure out how people have labeled this. I have no idea. Maybe I'm mischaracterizing things, and if that's the case, please redirect me to the appropriate way to map this mental model in my mind. But here we have your surface knowledge, okay? And then we also have your deep knowledge. This is your deep knowledge. The books could also be in the surface. It doesn't really matter. I'm just letting you know where the sources of input for information have been from. But both of these, your surface knowledge and your deep knowledge, comprise your knowledge corpus. Now, when you give an opinion, you first access your surface knowledge. This is basically knowledge that most people know about real estate here. So surface knowledge, a surface opinion might be, the market's been great. Like, I hear it's not a good time to buy. Surface knowledge on real estate is the fact that you need a house. Like, people should own houses. Like, the information that most of us would know, or the average adult, for example. Now, in formulating this surface lexicon, or in formulating your answer, you have to go through your surface lexicon and into your deep lexicon. And this deep lexicon is really what separates you from the average person. These can be the books that you've read, again, the videos you've watched, like all the information you know. You don't necessarily have to have the best understanding, but you have all these bits and pieces of knowledge. Like, they could also be word combos, right? So, A plus B, like there is a way in which you can say something that could take you 5 sentences to explain in a single sentence and get it across with precise clarity. So that might be a word combination, like a very specific way to arrange words to explain an idea. The problem is, here's sort of the question, is I'll be going throughout my day and I will remember, there's something that I read like that. I need to be sure to use that in conversation, or, that was an interesting concept. It made sense. So all this is in my brain. All this information is in my brain. The problem is when I go to speak, my brain defaults to the surface knowledge. So the surface knowledge, the problem is that I find myself, even though I've read all this information, and this, I probably should have chosen a topic that I'm maybe a bit more proficient on, because I know very little about real estate. But for any topic that I've done my due diligence in researching and understanding, how do I access this knowledge? How do I use that knowledge to craft articulate and I guess well-informed answers? I'm not able to get there. All my answers tend to be the answers that anyone else would give. And of course, I want to address some common objections. Some people would say maybe it has to do with anxiety or nervousness. No, I feel absolutely comfortable in these situations. I just find that my answers are very basic. I don't find myself giving good opinions, and I walk away from conversations most conversations, 80% of conversations, feeling very, very unsatisfactory with the answers that I gave. And it could even be with family, it can be in relationships. I know that I have a better way of conveying that answer or addressing a situation. Say someone comes to me with something that they felt frustrated about, and I gave the most basic run-of-the-mill answer: things will get better, focus on this, blah, blah, blah. Like what you might read, I don't know, in the first answer in a Google article that you pull up on how to help someone work through a challenge that they're dealing with. It's like I've read specific books on how to deal with like that situation, and there are all these different models that can help them, but I'm not able to use that in giving my verbal answer. It's like I always default to these almost like hardwired surface, not even phrases, but responses in modes of thought. And I don't know how to access this deep lexicon. There might be some of it that I pick up in giving my answer, like maybe a new term that I learned from a book on real estate. But for the vast majority of circumstances, I always feel like the answer that I give is not representing, I don't want to sound braggadocious in saying this, but the intellect and the knowledge corpus that I have. I've done all of this due diligence and researching a topic, and I understand it. It's not like I'm reading the book, I'm taking notes. I understand as well that there's a whole line of thought around associating meaning to knowledge, and you'll remember it far better than just if you're reading to read. If you pick up a book, just try to blow through the book, you might understand it, but you won't retain that knowledge. And I also understand too that there's like a necessary amount of effort that you have to put into a vein of expertise or a discipline in order to really have a solid understanding of that. Like you develop a model for, say, going into economics about how you think economics works, and you learn to modify that model, and that kind of solidifies your understanding. And it's along the, is it Socrates quote, the more you know, the less you know. All of this information is in my mind. And when I say in my mind, I don't mean I've read the book and like I've read the words and registered them in my brain somewhere. I mean, I'll be having these thoughts throughout the day. I can write them out, but I cannot have them on call when I want to give these answers. And the reason why I often think this is not related to me, and this is a fundamental human problem, is like I've watched interviews of some of these people, say a real estate expert. I watched an interview from someone who wrote a book on real estate, and this person is articulate in the way that they write. They write very clearly, but I see them speak and they are using very, very simple explanations, and not in response to a simple question that you might expect. They are not able to explain their own concepts in their own words in the way that they've been able to communicate them through text, or if they were writing an essay. And I just don't understand how can we get to the point where we're able to draw upon the full depository of knowledge, this bank of information that we have stumbled upon or read or digested. And I just found myself flabbergasted every time I have a conversation. I realize that's not my opinion. That's just the kind of my default auto response to the question that I was asked. In reality, I've read 3 books on that, and this person will never know. Like, I want to give an articulate, efficient answer. My understanding of something is constantly getting blurred with the same level of understanding of someone who hasn't spent time specializing in that particular domain of expertise. And again, real estate wasn't the best example. I can come up with other examples of things that I am very proficient at. But even those, I find, although my answers are better, and I simply think that's due to my prolonged exposure and research and various publishings on those topics. But even those topics, I'm not able to draw upon in real time the bank of knowledge that I have. And I wonder, I mentioned, I don't think it has to do with anxiety. I don't think it has to do with, because I've been in situations where I'm very comfortable, but I feel like something is being muted. Something is being muted in my mind that is a valve that's constricting the access of information. So if anyone can help me resolve this, and if there's anything I can clarify on this graph, please let me know. Because I've just gotten to the point where conversations are so unsatisfactory. Everything I write, the way I explain things, I'm just not satisfied with it. There's a far better way to say it. And this is not crippling in any way, and don't let me paint it that way. but it is severely frustrating. And I don't know if this is something everyone struggles with or has struggled with at some point. If you have a resolution to it, please let me know. And again, I'm willing to pay for any answers. And thank you for watching this video in advance.